Hey everyone! Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, unable to move, feeling like there's someone or something in the room with you? Today, we're diving into the creepy phenomenon known as sleep paralysis. I'll share 16 terrifying stories from real people and try to figure out why this happens. Ready? Let's get started. First one. An unanswered question. Sleep paralysis. Only people who haven't gone through it can joke about it. I'm a perfectly normal, rational person with a clear mind. About 10 years ago, I experienced this state consciously for the first time. Maybe it happened before, but I just slept too soundly to notice. Let me tell you, it's insane, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. It happens to me about once or twice a year, sometimes more. Why am I here now? It happened again at 5 a.m. today, so I decided to Google it. You wake up with this intense, gut-wrenching fear, the kind of fear that comes from knowing something sinister, hostile, and definitely not friendly is in the dark room with you. You don't know what it wants, but you're scared out of your mind. I call it a hostile force. It usually hangs around the head of the bed, behind me, in the corner, on the ceiling, or right next to the bed. It feels like it's leaning over you, just watching. Silently. The silence makes it even worse. Sometimes it feels like it's sitting on the edge of the bed, and then it suddenly stands up. You know that feeling when someone moves and the mattress shifts? It's always faceless, like a void. But I often picture it wearing a black cloak or hood, like a Nazgul from The Lord of the Rings. That image makes it even more terrifying. Sometimes I even get the sense that it's moving objects around the room, like some kind of poltergeist from a horror movie. The whole thing lasts for about 2 to 2.5 minutes. During that time, you can't move, open your eyes, or even lift your head to see what's going on. But you know it's there. It's kind of like a lucid dream, where you're aware but stuck. You try to ask, "Who are you?" or "Who's there?" But nothing comes out except for faint, muffled sounds. Your lips won't move, your body won't respond. Total paralysis. You're aware it'll be over soon, but those few minutes feel like forever. Finally, your fingers twitch, your eyes open, and it's gone. Your heart is racing, but nothing's there. At first, these episodes freaked me out. You could probably go grey from the fear. Now, I'm a bit calmer, and I feel more in control, but it's still scary as hell. What really helped was reading online and watching videos about sleep paralysis, knowing that other people go through the same thing. Scientists say it happens because your brain wakes up before your body does, like a glitch between your mind and muscles. But here's what nobody can explain. Why does the presence always feel so evil? Why not something comforting, like a panda bear with a bamboo stick or a sweet angel watching over you? Nope. It's always something terrifying. You know it'll pass in a couple of minutes, but every time it happens, the fear hits you like it's the first time. That's sleep paralysis for you. Stay safe, everyone. Second story. A habit of nightmares. I've been dealing with sleep paralysis since I was 12 years old, and I'm 21 now. One thing I've learned: don't wake up suddenly. To trigger sleep paralysis, you just need to be super sleepy, not even exhausted. For example, I'd watch TV until my eyes closed on their own. I wasn't tired, just dozing off. According to my family, they always found me lying on my back, even though I usually fall asleep on my side. I got so used to it that once, while it was happening, I tried to open my eyes. I almost succeeded. I could see my room and my wife sleeping next to me, but I couldn't fully open my eyes. At that exact moment, I saw a demon running toward me from another room, but from experience, I knew it wouldn't actually reach me. My family always woke me up because I'd start making weird, scary noises during sleep paralysis. I've never been able to wake myself up, not even once. If anyone else is going through this, I understand. And you're not alone. Third story. From fear to pleasure. About 6 months ago, I had a weird dream where I was hanging out with some strangers near the center of my town. We rented a room at this cafe bar where you could buy pretty much anything. I spent hours smoking from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. while scrolling through my phone. Maybe the nicotine triggered something. In the dream, I stepped outside to smoke and saw a strange figure. At first, I ignored it, but then I felt this weird urge to attack it. No clue why. Every time I punched it, it threw me to the ground, and I could actually feel the pain. This cycle kept repeating. When I woke up, I was panicked and couldn't calm down for a long time. 2 months later, I had sleep paralysis. I saw some creepy figure walking around my room, and yeah, I was terrified. But a month after that, it happened again, and this time I wasn't scared. I'd gotten used to it. Now I have sleep paralysis every 1 or 2 months, and weirdly enough, I kind of like it. Fourth one. Not an old woman, just teeth. One night, when I was working at a kids' camp, I woke up to this creaking sound. I saw a silhouette of an old woman coming toward me. Creak, creak. I tried to sit up and ask who it was, but I couldn't move. I gathered all my strength and managed to yell, "Who's there?" Then, out of nowhere, my roommate's voice says, "Relax, it's just my son grinding his teeth." Fifth story. Fear before sleep. This was pure horror. I was sleeping on my stomach when it felt like someone was choking me. I kept hearing footsteps near me, but I couldn't move, even though I could clearly see the room. There was a shadow standing in the middle, but there was no actual person. I felt this heavy pressure on my neck, like I was being strangled. Eventually, I blacked out, and thank God my alarm woke me up. Now I'm scared to sleep because I never want to experience that again. Sixth one. A cat or something more. I remember this so clearly. I felt something, like a huge cat, sitting on the headboard of my bed. It jumped onto the mattress beside me, and I could actually feel the bed dip under its weight. It jumped over me several times, brushing against me, and it all felt so real. I used every bit of willpower I had to calm down and move. When I finally opened my eyes, my heart was racing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just encountered something not from this world. Seventh story. A living nightmare. This is seriously messed up. I experienced it twice. The first time, I was absolutely terrified. The second time was a little better, but still just as scary. There was this demonic, evil presence in the room. I was screaming inside, calling for help, trying to shout with everything I had, but it felt like my voice was stuck. I could only whisper. During the first episode, it was insanely creepy. I felt like something was dragging me off the bed. My body felt like it was floating around the room, almost as if I'd taken some powerful drug. There was a loud buzzing in my head, screams and wailing. Something was pulling me in different directions. I tried to call for my mum, who was in the next room. I wanted to get up and open the door, but I couldn't move. The worst part was how it felt like the whole thing was on a loop, repeating over and over again. The second time it happened, my boyfriend was lying next to me. Everything felt the same, but the entity looked different. It crept closer, and I could feel this overwhelming sense of dread. I tried to push and hit my boyfriend to wake him up, but my body wouldn't respond, only my eyes moved. This thing was lying right next to me on the bed, practically in my face. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like my entire body was just one big beating heart. Horror movies seem like cartoons compared to this. When I finally woke up, I just lay there for another minute, only able to move my eyes, trying to figure out if I was really awake or if I was still trapped. I reached out and touched my boyfriend to be sure. After that, I was too scared to go back to sleep. I was terrified for days. Over time, the fear faded, but I'll never forget how real it felt. I probably wouldn't believe any of this if I hadn't experienced it myself. Eighth story. Fighting the nightmare. Today, I had my first sleep paralysis episode. It was a little past 3 a.m. I woke up with mild heartburn, went to the kitchen for a drink, and then went back to bed. I remember turning from side to side a few times before falling asleep. Then, I opened my eyes, and I just knew someone else was in the house. I listened carefully and heard faint creaking noises and a quiet knock on the window. Everything looked exactly like it does in real life. Except for one thing, My backpack was closer to me. I was lying on my side, facing the door. I tried to move. Nothing happened. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a dark silhouette in the kitchen doorway. I remembered there was a tactical flashlight in the side pocket of my backpack. My arm felt numb and wouldn't respond, but I forced my left hand to reach for the bag. In reality, getting the flashlight would require me to prop myself up and reach down. But in that moment, I could see it so clearly, like it was right there. With immense effort, I slowly stretched my arm toward the backpack. As I glanced back at the doorway, I saw the shadow figure moving closer. I panicked, yanked out the flashlight, and aimed it at the doorway. The figure instantly blurred, like watercolor running off a page, and vanished. My heart was racing as I clutched the flashlight and scanned the room. Suddenly, there was a knock at the window. I shone the light toward it and saw a woman with an unnerving, stretched-out smile. She started talking, claiming she would take my 1-year-old nephew and my entire family. I tried to say, "Don't you dare!" But all that came out was a garbled noise. My lips wouldn't move. She kept ranting while I struggled to control my voice. When she declared again that she would take everyone, I couldn't hold back. I flashed a rude gesture and forced my mouth open with my fingers, finally managing to shout at her to leave. And just like that, I woke up. I turned on the light, checked my phone. It was 4:46 a.m. At first, I thought it was just a weird hallucination. Then I realized I had been in sleep paralysis. I immediately wrote everything down to make sure I wouldn't forget it. 9th story. Thrill-seeking in sleep. I've experienced sleep paralysis, and let me tell you, it's terrifying. But I love an adrenaline rush, so I tried to trigger it on purpose, and I did. There was a creature beside me, and I can't even describe its face. It was too bizarre, even if I were drunk. It wasn't trying to kill me, but I was suffocating with panic and desperately tried to call for help. No one came. Why? Because you can't actually scream during sleep paralysis. Surprise. The easiest way to snap out of it? Just squeeze your eyes shut really hard, and boom, you'll wake up. If you're as crazy as I am, though, well, enjoy the ride. 10th one. A lucid nightmare. One time, I was lying on the couch watching TV. I started feeling like my body was slipping into sleep. I stopped paying attention to the screen and just zoned out. Suddenly, everything shifted. I wasn't in my living room anymore. In an instant, I was in my kitchen. I was sitting at the table across from someone I knew, but there was something eerie about their expression. It spooked me. That's when I realized I was dreaming because I remembered falling asleep on the couch just moments earlier. It felt like my brain was awake, but my body was asleep. Everything in the kitchen seemed scripted, like someone had pressed play on a video, and I was stuck watching. I tried to move my arms or legs, but nothing worked. I thought, if I'm breathing, maybe I can make noise. So I started moaning. I only did this for 5 to 10 seconds before I actually heard my own voice, but not in the dream, in real life. At that exact moment, I blinked and snapped back to reality. I was still on the couch, and the TV was still playing. My limbs felt heavy and numb, but at least I could move again. I just sat there for a few minutes, processing what had happened before eventually falling back asleep. This wasn't the only time it happened. There were 2 or 3 other incidents where I felt fully conscious but trapped inside a dream. It's the strangest feeling, being aware but powerless to change anything until you finally figure out how to wake yourself up. 11th story. Childhood nightmares. I had sleep paralysis twice when I was a kid. Let me tell you about it. The first time was about 5 years ago when I was 8 years old. I woke up in bed and everything felt completely real. I could feel the sheets, I was breathing, and I could see the room clearly. But when I tried to get up, I couldn't move. I had no idea what was happening. I was scared, but I couldn't even scream. I had forgotten how. In my bedroom door, there was frosted glass that blurred whatever was on the other side. After about 2 minutes of nothing happening, I saw a hooded figure behind the glass. It walked past the door, but instead of entering my room, it moved in the opposite direction. It was all black, Or at least that's how it seemed. At the time, I thought it might be an angel or a demon. But later, when I learned about sleep paralysis, I realized that's exactly what it was. The second time happened while I was sleeping at my grandmother's house. I woke up, and again, I couldn't move. Something felt wrong. After about 40 seconds, I heard someone outside yelling for help. The voice was so loud and desperate, it sounded like someone was being attacked. The shouting lasted for almost 10 minutes before everything suddenly went quiet. I was too scared to sleep for at least an hour. I'm just glad I know what sleep paralysis is now. It helps to understand it's not something supernatural. 12th story. Unpleasant memories. I used to experience this a lot as a kid and during my teenage years. I'd close my eyes and try to move, but I couldn't. I would often see shadowy figures at the foot of my bed. Sometimes I'd hear strange, artificial noises in my ears. It was unbearable, and I honestly thought I was going deaf. Once I figured out what was happening, I tried to ignore it. But when it got really intense, I'd force myself to move a leg. Sometimes I'd even kick the wall and stub my toes. I'd jolt awake, heart pounding and covered in cold sweat. It's an indescribable feeling. 13th story. A terrifying race against fear. I had sleep paralysis twice, with over a year between the episodes. The sheer terror, panic, and primal fear were overwhelming, especially the helplessness of being unable to blink or move. The worst part, there was a shadow figure standing near the half-covered window. It looked exactly like the ones you see in those creepy videos, tall, dark, with long arms. For about 20 seconds, we just stared at each other. Then, without warning, it extended its arms and started moving toward me. At that moment, I thought it was the end. I genuinely believed I was going to die. But somehow, every time, I managed to scream, blink, and finally wake up. The scariest thought? One day, that thing might actually reach me. 14th one. A haunting childhood memory. When I was a kid, I had this recurring nightmare. Or maybe it was sleep paralysis. I'd be asleep and suddenly feel something heavy sitting on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I would wake up drenched in sweat and gasping for air. I don't remember exactly how long it lasted, maybe a year or two, but the sensation was terrifying every time. 15th story. A nightmare come to life. Last night, I experienced sleep paralysis firsthand, and it was absolutely horrifying. I always sleep on my right side, with a movie playing on my phone. My cat was sleeping on the second pillow, right next to my face. Suddenly, a loud bang woke me up. The movie was still playing, but when I tried to reach for my phone to check the time, I couldn't move a muscle, only my eyes. I glanced at my cat, still sleeping peacefully. But just below my line of sight, I noticed a black shadow sitting next to him. It looked like a cat, but it had no eyes, no ears, just a featureless black form staring straight at me. I wanted to cry, but all I could do was silently scream inside. Then, the shadow slid down my body like a thick cloud. I felt something touch my left leg, something real. It felt like a hand or a paw climbing onto me. Desperately, I tried to move my toes, and after what felt like forever, I finally broke free of the paralysis. It was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. Seriously, guys, it's no joke. 16th story. Science versus fear. Let me tell you my story. Today, I had my second sleep paralysis episode. I was dreaming that my relatives, who actually live in another city, were staying at my house. At first, everything seemed normal, but after a while, I realized that they couldn't possibly be there because I live alone with my grandmother. That's when things got terrifying. I thought I should wake up, but instead, I found myself lying in my bed, in my actual room, in the exact position I had fallen asleep. The lighting in the room even matched what it was when I woke up later. It all felt disturbingly real. I got up and walked out of my room, where I saw one of those relatives sitting at my laptop. At that moment, I knew for sure it was a dream. I tried talking to him, but as I got closer, he vanished. Suddenly, I was back in bed. I wanted to get up and wash my face, but I couldn't open my left eye. I realized there was a hideous, brownish creature sitting on the left side of my body. It was thin and grotesque, and I could only see it with my right eye. I started screaming and tried to push it away with my right hand while desperately attempting to move my left hand, but nothing worked. I was fully aware that it was a dream, but I still couldn't wake myself up. My left side felt paralyzed, and my efforts to move were futile. I yelled for my grandmother, convinced she was in the kitchen, but when I finally woke up, I realized she wasn't even home. My left arm, the one I couldn't move, felt tense and numb for a while afterward. The first time I experienced sleep paralysis was a few months ago, and that time I was absolutely terrified. It was nighttime, and I felt like my body was being lifted toward the window. Since I live on the 9th floor, I was overcome with panic. Some unseen force seemed to be trying to throw me out. I couldn't move, and I felt helpless. Eventually, I woke up, but the memory still haunts me. I've realized that stress and sleeping on my back seem to trigger these episodes. I usually fall asleep on my side, but during both experiences, I woke up on my back. Understanding the science behind sleep paralysis has helped ease my fear. Sleep paralysis happens when your brain wakes up before your body does, leaving you stuck in a state where you're aware but unable to move. The terrifying hallucinations, like demons or shadow figures, are caused by the part of the brain responsible for fear being overactive while you're partially conscious. The key is to stay calm and wait. It usually lasts just 1 to 2 minutes. Knowing this has helped me stay grounded when it happens, and I hope it helps others too. These are just some of the terrifying stories about sleep paralysis. While it may be a frightening experience, scientists believe it's just a natural part of sleep and brain function. The key is not to panic and to remember that it is only a temporary state. Have you ever experienced something like this? Share your story in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay updated with our latest content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.